This is a story about letting today go. All of it. The things you did and the things you did not do. The words you said and the ones still caught in your throat. The places where you tried your hardest and the places where you fell short. This evening, we are going to set it all down together, gently, the way you might place a sleeping child into a warm bed, carefully, quietly, with nothing but tenderness. There is nothing left to fix. There is nothing left to carry. The day is done, and you are here, and that is the only thing that matters now. Before we begin, feel free to share what time it is and where you are listening from. Now, wherever you are, let yourself arrive here. You do not need to do anything special. You do not need to clear your mind or become calm first. You do not need to get comfortable in any particular way. Just notice where your body meets the surface beneath you. Feel the places where your weight presses down, your shoulders, the backs of your arms, the length of your spine, the heaviness of your legs. You have been carrying your own weight all day long, and now the bed carries it for you. The pillow carries it. The floor beneath you carries it. You can let yourself be held. Take one slow breath in through your nose and let it leave through your mouth as if you were breathing fog onto a cold window. Soft and slow and easy. Do it once more if you like. Feel the way your chest rises and then falls. And now just let the breath find its own rhythm, its own pace, without you needing to guide it or count it or manage it in any way. You have been awake for so many hours. You have been deciding things, managing things, holding things together. You have been answering questions and solving problems and showing up in all the ways that were asked of you. And some of those hours were heavy, and some of them were fine, and some of them you barely remember because they passed in that blur that busy days create. But all of it, every moment of it, is behind you now. The only thing being asked of you is to lie here. That is enough. You are enough. You have always been enough, even on the days when it did not feel that way. Especially on those days. Let the sounds around you become a kind of curtain. Let whatever thoughts are still circling do their circling. You do not need to chase them or quiet them. They will settle on their own, the way dust settles in a room after the door has been closed, the way snow settles after it falls. Slowly, without effort, without anyone asking it to. There is an old Zen saying that goes like this: sitting quietly, doing nothing, spring comes, and the grass grows by itself. Read that again in your mind if you like. Sitting quietly, doing nothing. Spring comes, and the grass grows by itself. You do not need to make anything happen right now. The letting go you are looking for is not something you do. It is something that happens when you stop doing. Like a clenched hand that finally opens, not because someone pried it apart, not because you forced the fingers back, but because the hand simply grew tired of holding on. And in that opening, there is relief. There is space. There is the gentle surprise of realizing that what you were holding was not as heavy as the act of holding it. So let us begin. Let the stories come to you like warm light through a window. You do not need to follow them closely. You do not need to remember them. Just let them wash over you, the way water moves over stones in a stream, smooth and continuous, and asking nothing of the stones at all. A long time ago, in a monastery that sat on the edge of a wide, slow-moving river, there was a young monk named Seon. He had come to the monastery 6 months earlier, full of determination and hope. He wanted to become wise. He wanted to become calm. He wanted, more than anything, to become the kind of person who did not lie awake at the end of the day replaying every small failure, every awkward word, every moment where he felt he had not been enough. But the monastery did not seem to be helping. Each morning, the monks rose before dawn and walked in silence to the meditation hall. They sat for 2 hours on thin cushions in a long, cool room that smelled of sandalwood and old wood. And while the older monks sat like stones, their faces soft and still, their breath barely visible, Soyeon's mind was a storm. He thought about the conversation he had had with his mother before he left home, how she had looked at him with worry in her eyes, how he had not known what to say to make her feel better. He thought about the bowl he had dropped in the kitchen the day before, the way the older monk had looked at him, the sharp crack it made when it shattered against the stone floor. He thought about whether he was sitting correctly, breathing correctly, being correctly. Every evening, after the final bell and the last meal and the slow walk back to his room, he would lie on his thin mat and review the day the way a merchant counts losses. He would find each mistake, hold it up to the light of his attention, examine it from every angle, and then place it carefully in the growing pile of evidence that he was not good enough, not disciplined enough, not cut out for this life of stillness. One evening, the head teacher, a woman named Master Yun, found him sitting by the river after the last bell. He had come here because the sound of the water helped a little. It gave his mind something to follow that was not his own thoughts. The water was dark and silver under a half moon, and the air was cool, and the far bank was just a dark line between the water and the sky. Son did not hear her approach. She moved the way old practitioners often move, without unnecessary sound. "You are still carrying the day," she said. It was not a question. It was not a judgment. It was simply what she saw. Sion nodded. "I cannot seem to put it down. I go over everything. I see all the places where I was clumsy, where I was distracted, where I fell short. And I tell myself, I will do better tomorrow. But then tomorrow comes and I fall short again, and the pile just keeps growing." Master Yoon sat down beside him on the cool stones of the riverbank. She was quiet for a long time. She did not seem to be thinking of what to say. She seemed to simply be sitting, the way the stones sat, the way the water sat in its banks, without effort or agenda. "Tell me," she said finally, "do you see that branch there, the one caught between those two rocks?" Sion looked. In the shallows near the bank, a small branch, no longer than his forearm, was pinned between two smooth stones. The water rushed around it, pressing against it, folding and churning, unable to carry it forward. The branch trembled in the current, but did not move. "Yes," he said. "Watch it," she said. They sat together in silence. 1 minute. 2. The water pushed. The branch trembled and held. And then, with no particular drama, no sudden force, the current shifted just slightly, A small change in the way the water moved around one of the stones, and the branch came free. It drifted downstream, turning slowly, catching the moonlight on its wet bark until it disappeared around the bend. The river did not try harder, Master Yun said. It did not develop a strategy. It did not criticize itself for not moving the branch sooner. The branch came free because the water simply kept flowing. The flow was enough. It was always going to be enough. The branch was never going to stay there forever. She turned to him, and even in the low light he could see the kindness in her face. It is the same with you, Sion. You do not need to pull your thoughts free. You do not need to force yourself to stop reviewing the day. You do not need a better technique or more discipline. You simply need to keep flowing. And in time, what is stuck will come unstuck. What is caught will come free. Son looked at the water where the branch had been. The stones were still there. The water still moved around them. But the branch was gone. But what if it does not come free? He asked. Then it does not, she said, simply and with no worry in her voice at all. And the river flows on anyway. What Master Yun was offering Xuan is something the Buddha spoke of often throughout his years of teaching. He called it the practice of non-clinging, or in the old Pali language, upadana. It does not mean you stop caring about your life. It does not mean you become cold or indifferent to the things that happen to you. It means that you stop gripping so tightly to the events of each day that your hands ache from the holding, that your mind aches from the reviewing, that your heart aches from the constant measuring of yourself against some impossible standard. You know this feeling. You know what it is like to lie in bed and replay a conversation, to hear your own voice saying something clumsy, to feel the wince of it again in your chest. You know what it is like to carry the weight of something you wish you had done differently, to feel that weight settle in your body like a stone in your stomach. And perhaps you have tried to stop thinking about it, tried to push the thoughts away, tried to distract yourself or reason yourself out of it, and found that the forcing only makes the thoughts louder, only presses the branch more firmly between the stones. So perhaps, just for now, you might try what the river does. Not pushing, not forcing, not trying harder. Simply continuing to flow. Simply continuing to breathe, to rest, to let the current of this quiet moment carry you. And as you lie here, you might notice where you are still holding on to something from today. It could be a tension in your jaw that you did not realize was there, a tightness across your chest, a thought that keeps returning, circling back like a bird to a familiar rooftop. You do not need to name it or analyze it or fix it. Just notice it, the way you might notice a sound in another room, with awareness, but without urgency. And then imagine the current of your own breath moving past it, gently, the way the river moved around that branch, not pulling it free, just flowing. You do not need to figure anything out. There is nothing required of you in this moment but to breathe, and to let the breath do what it already knows how to do. Let us pause here for a moment. Notice how you are feeling. Let the breath come and go in its own time. And when you are ready, we will continue together. In a mountain village far from any city, where the air was thin and clear and the peaks stood white against the sky in every season, there lived a gardener named Hana. She was not a monk. She was not a teacher. She had never studied the old texts or sat in a meditation hall. She was simply a woman who grew vegetables and tended flowers in a small plot of land behind her house. She had done this for 30 years, since she was a young woman with strong hands and a straight back. And now she was older, and her hands were rough and her back was curved slightly from all the bending. But she still knelt in the dirt every morning and worked with the same patience she had always brought to the soil. People in the village sometimes came to Hana when they were troubled, not because she had wisdom to offer, not in any formal way, but because she had a quality of presence that made things feel less heavy. She would pour tea from a clay pot she had owned for decades, and she would ask one or two quiet questions, and then she would be silent. And in that silence, people often found what they were looking for without her saying another word. One autumn afternoon, a woman named Lien came to see her. Lien was younger, perhaps 30, with dark hair pulled back and shadows under her eyes. She carried herself like someone who had been running for a long time and was not sure she was allowed to stop. Her hands moved constantly, fidgeting with the edge of her sleeve, the rim of her teacup, the corner of the wooden table. "I cannot stop thinking about what I should be doing," Lien said. Her voice was tight, like a rope pulled taut. "Every moment, every single moment, there is a voice telling me I am behind, that I have not done enough, that other people my age are further along, that I am wasting time. I go to sleep with a list in my head, and I wake up with the same list, and it is always longer in the morning than it was the night before. I feel like I am drowning in my own life." Hana nodded slowly. She took a sip of tea, holding the cup the way she held most things, carefully with both hands. Then she set the cup down and said, "Come with me." She led Lien through the back door and into the garden. It was late autumn, and the garden was not at its best. The tomato vines had turned brown and brittle, their last fruits picked weeks ago. The squash had been harvested and stored. The flower beds were bare, except for a few stubborn chrysanthemums still blooming in shades of rust and deep gold, like small fires burning close to the earth. "What do you see?" Hana asked. Lien looked around at the empty beds, the bare soil, the dried stalks. "A garden in between seasons. Not much growing. Things winding down." "Yes," Hana said. "And do you think the garden is failing?" Lien paused. She looked at the garden again. "No," she said. "Of course not. It is just resting." "It is," Hana said. "And this is the part that most people forget. Everyone loves the harvest. They see the baskets of tomatoes and the heavy squash, and they admire the abundance. They see the spring blossoms, and they celebrate. But this, the quiet season, the empty season, the season where nothing appears to be happening on the surface, this is when the most important work is being done. This is when the soil is rebuilding itself. This is when the roots of the perennials are going deeper into the earth, strengthening themselves for what is to come. This is when the earthworms are working, and the nutrients are settling, and the ground is becoming ready for another year of growth. She knelt slowly beside one of the bare beds and pressed her hand flat into the dark soil. She held it there for a moment, as if she were feeling the pulse of the earth itself. If I tried to make this garden produce right now, she said, if I forced bulbs into the cold ground and demanded that they bloom, if I pulled out the grow lamps and the fertilizer and insisted on a harvest in December, I would exhaust the soil. The garden might give me something, yes, a few pale shoots, a handful of thin, flavorless fruits, but the soil would be depleted. And next year's harvest, the real harvest, the one that comes from rested earth, would suffer for it. She looked up at Lien, and her eyes were warm and steady. You are in your quiet season, Lien, and you are standing here, looking at yourself, and thinking you should be in full bloom. Lien's eyes filled with tears. She did not try to wipe them away. She stood there in the autumn garden with the cold air on her face and the tears on her cheeks, and she let them come. The voice that tells you that you are behind, Hana said gently. It does not know about seasons. It only knows about producing. It only knows about output and results and visible growth. But you are not a machine, Lien. You are a living thing. And living things need fallow time. They need time to go deep, to do the work that no one sees, to rest and rebuild in ways that cannot be measured or shown on a list. The Buddha often spoke about the middle way, the path that runs between striving too hard and not engaging at all. It is one of the most misunderstood of his teachings because people hear middle and think it means average or mediocre or not really trying. But the middle way is something else entirely. It is the deep understanding that growth has a rhythm and that the rhythm includes rest. It includes empty seasons. It includes long stretches where nothing seems to be happening, where you cannot point to any evidence of progress, where the only thing you can do is trust that the soil of your life is doing its work beneath the surface. There is a concept in the old teachings called khanti, sometimes translated as patience, but it means something closer to endurance with grace. It is the willingness to sit in the quiet season without demanding that it end, without comparing your garden to someone else's garden, without measuring your worth by what is visible, what is harvestable, what can be shown to the world. So as you lie here, you might let go of the idea that you should be further along. Whatever list is still running in your mind, whatever voice is telling you that you have not accomplished enough, that you are behind where you should be, you might gently set it aside for now. Not forever, just for this moment, just for this one quiet season of the night. You are doing exactly what you need to be doing, which is resting, which is letting the soil of your being replenish itself. You do not need to figure anything out before morning. You do not need to solve anything, or plan anything, or produce anything before sleep finds you. You are in the fallow time. And the fallow time is not wasted time. It is the most important time of all. Let us pause here for a moment. Notice how you are feeling. Let the breath come and go in its own time. And when you are ready, we will continue together. In a monastery deep in the mountains, there was a tradition that every new monk was given a single candle on the day they arrived. The candle was thick and pale, made of beeswax by the monks themselves, and it smelled faintly of honey and warm summer grass. The head monk would place it in their hands and say only this: "This is yours. It will last exactly as long as it needs to." A young monk named Jiro received his candle on a cold morning in early winter. The air smelled of pine and wood smoke, and his breath made small clouds in front of his face as he walked back to his room. He placed the candle on the low wooden shelf beside his sleeping mat and looked at it for a long time. It was beautiful in its simplicity, a pale column of wax with a white wick curling from its center, patient and waiting. He did not light it. He was afraid of using it up. Weeks passed. The days grew shorter, and the nights grew long and dark. The other monks lit their candles in the evenings when they read sutras, or wrote in their journals, or sat quietly in reflection. Their rooms glowed with warm amber light that spilled out under their doors and into the stone hallway. When Jiro walked past their rooms in the evening, he could see the light moving, flickering, alive. But Jiro's room stayed dark. He would sit on his mat in the shadows and listen to the wind outside and think about all the things he might need the candle for someday. A special occasion. A night when the darkness felt truly unbearable. A moment that was important enough, meaningful enough to deserve the light. He told himself he was being wise, being careful, being a good steward of what he had been given. But the truth was something simpler and sadder than that. He was afraid. Afraid that once the candle was lit, it would begin to shrink. Afraid that once it burned down to nothing, the darkness would return, and this time it would be permanent, and he would have nothing left to hold against it. One evening, there was a soft knock on his door. An older monk named Taro stood in the hallway carrying his own candle in a small clay holder. Taro's candle was well used, perhaps half its original height, and the flame leaned gently to one side in the draft from the hallway. Melted wax had run down the sides in smooth, organic trails, like frozen streams of honey. "Your room is very dark, Jiro," Taro said, not with judgment, but with the simple observation of someone who had walked past that dark doorway many times and finally stopped. "I am saving my candle," Jiro replied, "for when I really need it." Taro smiled, a small, warm smile that deepened the lines around his eyes. He stepped inside, moving carefully in the near darkness, and set his candle on the shelf beside Jiro's unlit one. The room transformed. The walls, which Jiro had only ever seen as gray shapes, vague and featureless, turned warm and golden. The wood grain of the shelf became visible, swirling patterns like rivers seen from a great height. The folds of his blanket held shadows and light in equal measure. A small spider had built a web in the corner of the ceiling, and in the candlelight, the silk threads caught the glow and became a tiny constellation, fragile and astonishing and beautiful. Jiro stared. He had been living in this room for weeks and had never seen any of this. "Jiro," Taro said gently, "do you know why the candle was given to you? To use when I need it most." "No," Taro said, "to use. That is all. Not to protect, not to save for some perfect future moment. To use. The candle was not given to you so that you could keep it safe from being a candle. It was given to you so that it could do what candles do, which is to burn and to give light and to fill a room with warmth, and yes, eventually, to reach its end. That is not a tragedy. That is the purpose of a candle. That is the fulfillment of what it was made to be." He paused, and then he said something that Jiro would carry with him for the rest of his days. something that would surface again and again in quiet moments, in dark rooms, in the hours before sleep. You are so afraid of the candle running out that you have been sitting in the dark, and the dark has become so familiar that you have forgotten it is dark. You have started to believe that this is simply where you belong. Jiro looked at his candle, untouched, unburned, whole, and he looked at the room around him, golden and alive in Taro's borrowed light. And he reached for his candle, held its white wick against Taro's flame, and watched as his own light caught, flickered once, and then grew steady and strong. The room became twice as bright. The spider's web blazed like a tiny chandelier, and the shadows retreated, not gone, but smaller, less certain, held at a gentle distance by the light of two candles instead of one. This is what the Buddhist tradition calls Buddha nature. It is the light that is already inside you. The goodness, the awareness, the warmth, the capacity for love and presence and joy that does not need to be earned or achieved or unlocked by any special practice. It is already there. It has always been there, from the very first breath you took in this life. But sometimes, like Jiro, we are so afraid of it running out, so afraid that we are not worthy of it, so afraid that if we let it shine, it will somehow be diminished, that we keep it hidden. We sit in the dark, and we forget that we have a candle at all. The Buddha taught that every single being already possesses this nature, completely and without exception, not as a potential that might develop someday, not as a reward for years of practice, as a present reality, like a candle that is already made, already whole, already capable of filling a room with light. The only thing needed is the willingness to strike the match. The only thing needed is to stop saving yourself for later and to simply begin. So as you rest here, you might imagine a small, warm light somewhere deep in the center of your chest. It does not need to be bright. It does not need to be anything dramatic or impressive. Just a gentle glow, like a candle seen through a frosted window on a winter evening. You do not need to make it brighter or protect it or earn the right to carry it. Just notice it. It has been there all along, on the good days and on the terrible ones, in the moments of confidence and in the long hours of doubt. Even when you felt most lost, most alone, most convinced that you had nothing left to offer, it was there, burning quietly, waiting for you to remember it. And it does not need your permission to shine. It shines simply because that is its nature. That is what it does. Let us pause here for a moment. Notice how you are feeling. Let the breath come and go in its own time. And when you are ready, we will continue together. There was once a traveler named May who had been walking for many days. She had crossed 2 mountain passes where the air was thin and the wind cut through her clothes like cold water. She had followed a river valley for 3 days, sleeping on the soft ground beneath pine trees, waking each morning with dew on her blanket and the sound of birds above her. She had eaten what she could find along the way, wild berries and rice cakes she had carried from the last village, and she had drunk from cold streams that ran down from the snow line. She was looking for a teacher. She had heard from a merchant in a village many days behind her that there was a wise woman living at the edge of a great forest near the northern mountains. This woman, the merchant said, had a rare gift. She could look at a person the way you might look into a lake, past the surface, past the reflections and the ripples, all the way down to the very bottom. And she could see what they were carrying, even the things that were invisible, even the things the person themselves did not know they were holding. And she could show them how to set it all down. May needed this more than she had ever needed anything. She was carrying so much. She carried the memory of her father, who had died the previous spring, suddenly, in the middle of an ordinary afternoon. She carried the guilt of not being there when he passed, of being in another city, of receiving the news from a messenger who had knocked on her door with a face that told her everything before he spoke a single word. She carried the worry that she was wasting her life, that she had chosen the wrong path at every turning, that the years were slipping past her like water through open fingers, and she had nothing to show for any of it. She carried the fear, the deepest fear, the one she could barely look at directly, that she would always feel this way. Heavy, uncertain, a half step behind where she was supposed to be, and that no amount of walking, no teacher, no wisdom would ever change that. When she finally reached the small house at the edge of the forest, she was exhausted in a way that went beyond her body. Her feet ached, and her legs trembled, and her pack felt like it was full of stones. But the tiredness she felt most was in her mind, in her heart, in whatever part of her had been carrying all of these invisible things for all of these months without pause. A woman with gray hair pulled back from a weathered, kind face opened the door. She looked at May for a long moment, the way you might look at a sky before a storm, reading it, understanding it, not judging it, and then she stepped aside and let her in. "You have been walking a long time," the woman said. Her name was Sue. "I have come to learn how to let go," May said. Sue nodded, as if this were the most natural thing in the world. She invited May to sit. The house was simple and warm. A fire burned low in a stone hearth, the coals glowing orange and gray. A kettle of water hung above it, steam rising in a thin, curling line. There were two worn wooden chairs, a small table with a cracked surface smoothed by years of hands and cups and elbows, and a shelf of clay jars filled with dried herbs and tea leaves that gave the room a scent like summer fields after rain. Sue poured 2 cups of tea and handed one to May. May wrapped her cold, aching hands around the warm clay and felt something in her chest loosen, just slightly, at the simple kindness of being given something warm to hold. "Tell me what you are carrying," Sue said. And May told her. She told her everything. About her father. About the guilt that followed her like a shadow. How it was there when she woke, and there when she lay down, and there in every quiet moment between. About the worry that she had wasted her life, chosen wrong, been wrong. About the way she lay awake every night and reviewed every failure, every shortcoming, every moment where she had not been brave enough, or kind enough, or present enough. The words came out like water from a cracked vessel, not in a rush, but in a steady, patient, unstoppable stream that she could not have held back if she had tried. She talked until her tea went cold, and the fire burned down to embers, and the shadows in the room grew long and soft. When she finished, Sue was quiet for a very long time. She did not rush to fill the silence. She seemed to be honoring the weight of what had just been spoken, giving it the space and the stillness it deserved. Then she said softly, "You have told me all the things you are carrying. Now let me ask you something. Are any of those things here, in this room, right now, in this very moment?" May blinked. "What do you mean?" "Your father's death." "Is it here, in this room?" "No. It happened far away, months ago. The guilt you feel. Can you hold it up in your hands? Can you show it to me? Does it have weight, or shape, or color?" "No. It is just a feeling. The fear of wasting your life." "Is it sitting in that chair beside you? Is it in the fire? Is it in the tea?" May almost smiled, and the near smile surprised her, because she had not expected to find anything close to lightness in this room. "No." "Then what is here?" Sue asked. "Right now. In this room. In this breath you are breathing. What is actually, truly here?" May looked around. The fire, now low and quiet, its embers pulsing with deep orange light. The two wooden chairs, smooth and solid. The table between them. The tea in its cup, gone cold but still there. The sound of wind in the trees outside, soft and continuous, like the breathing of the forest itself. The warmth that still lingered in her palms from the clay. The ache in her feet from all the walking. The feeling of being inside, of being sheltered, of being out of the wind and the cold and the open sky. "Just this," she said quietly. "Just this room. Just you and me. Just the fire and the tea and the wind." "Yes," Sue said. "Just this. And tell me, is this unbearable?" May felt tears on her cheeks. She did not wipe them away. She let them fall into her lap like rain. "No," she whispered. "This is actually quite peaceful." "It almost always is," Sue said. "The present moment, the actual one, the one that is happening right now in this room, is almost always bearable, almost always quiet, almost always gentler than we expect it to be. It is the past and the future that are heavy, and neither of them are here. Neither of them have ever been here. This is the heart of what the Buddha called sati, or mindfulness. It is not a technique to be perfected. It is not a skill that requires years of discipline. It is simply the art of coming back, again and again and again, to what is actually here. Not the story about what happened yesterday, not the fear about what might happen tomorrow, not the running commentary your mind produces about who you are and what you should have done. Just this. The breath moving through your body, the sound of a voice in the dark, the weight of your own limbs, the simple, extraordinary fact of being alive, here, now, in this particular body, in this particular moment. The Dhammapada, one of the oldest collections of the Buddha's words, says, "Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future, concentrate the mind on the present moment." And the beauty of this teaching is that you do not need to concentrate very hard at all. You do not need to strain or focus or achieve some special state of clarity. You simply need to notice what is already here. And what is already here is always, always enough. And so, as you lie here, Sinking a little deeper into the warmth and weight of your own resting body, you might gently check what is actually here right now, not the day that passed, not the morning that will come, just this moment, this single, unrepeatable moment. Perhaps you can feel the fabric of the sheets against your skin. Perhaps you notice the weight of the blanket draped across your legs. Perhaps you hear the quiet rhythm of your own breathing, that soft tide that has been with you since the moment you were born and has never once forgotten to return. That is all that is here. And it is enough. It has always been enough. Let us pause here for a moment. Notice how you are feeling. Let the breath come and go in its own time. And when you are ready, we will continue together. In a small town at the base of a green mountain, nestled between rice paddies and a bamboo forest, there was a tea house that had been run by the same family for 4 generations. It was a modest place, with a sloping tile roof and a wooden porch that creaked in just the right way when you stepped on it, a sound that the regular visitors had come to hear as the tea house welcoming them home. The current owner was a man named Ren. He was quiet and deliberate, a man of few words and many attentions. He moved through the tea house with the practiced ease of someone who had memorized every surface, every corner, every crack in the old pine floor. He knew which boards sang underfoot, and which cups had a small chip on the rim that you could only discover with your thumb. He made tea the way some people make music, with complete attention, with a kind of devotion that did not need to explain itself. You could taste it in the cup, though you might not have been able to say what exactly was different. Care, perhaps. Patience. The quiet accumulation of 10,000 afternoons. Every day, an elderly monk from the temple on the mountain would walk down the winding stone path and sit at the same table by the window. His name was Kodo, and he was very old, perhaps 80, perhaps 90. No one was entirely sure, and Kodo himself seemed to find the question both amusing and beside the point. His face was deeply lined, each line like the bed of a small, ancient river, and his eyes had the quality of deep lake water, still and clear and utterly transparent, reflecting everything that passed across them without holding any of it. Ren would bring him tea without being asked. It was a ritual between them, wordless and warm. Kodo would receive the cup with both hands, as though the cup were something alive and precious. They rarely spoke. There was a companionship in their silence that ran deeper than most conversations. The kind of understanding that grows between two people who have shared the same quiet space for many years without ever feeling the need to fill it. But one afternoon, something was different. Ren was not himself. He moved too quickly, with an agitation in his hands that was unfamiliar. He spilled water on the counter and apologized to a customer who had not even noticed. He wiped down the same spot on the table 3 times without realizing it. And when he brought Kodo his tea, his hands were trembling, just enough that the surface of the tea shivered in the cup. Kodo noticed. He always noticed the things most people missed. The way a leaf turns before it falls. The way someone's voice shifts pitch when they are holding something back. The way the light changes in a room when sadness enters it. "Sit with me, Ren," he said. Ren hesitated. He looked back at the counter, at the waiting kettle, at the small tasks that were asking for his attention. "The tea will wait," Kodo said. "It is very good at waiting. It has been waiting for centuries. Ren sat down across from him. He placed his hands flat on the table, as if trying to steady them against the solid wood. He did not speak for a long time. Kodo did not ask him to. They sat together in the afternoon light, which came through the window in long golden slants and fell across the table between them, marking the passage of time the way it had done in this room for 100 years. Finally, Ren spoke. I received a letter from my son yesterday. He does not want to take over the tea house. He wants to move to the city. He wants to study engineering. He wants a different life than this one. Kodo nodded slowly, as if he had been expecting this, or something like it. I have spent my entire life here, Ren said. And now there was a tremor in his voice that matched the one in his hands. My father gave his life to this place before me, his mother before him. 4 generations, Kodo. 4 generations of care and attention and love poured into these walls, this floor, these cups. And now it ends with me. Everything I have done, all the mornings, all the years of learning to make the tea just right, it will simply stop. It will be as if none of it happened, as if none of it mattered. Kodo took a slow sip of tea. He held the cup in both hands, as he always did, as though the small clay cup were the most important thing in the world, which, in that moment, perhaps it was. Ren, he said, look at this cup of tea. Ren looked down at the tea in Kodo's hands. In a few minutes, I will finish it. The cup will be empty. The tea will be gone. Does that mean the tea was wasted? No, Ren said. Of course not. You enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. Very much. And was it less meaningful? Less real? Less beautiful? Because it ended? Is this cup of tea somehow diminished because I will set it down? Ren was quiet for a long time. Everything ends, Ren. This cup of tea. This afternoon of light through this window. This tea house. Whether your son carries it on or not. My life. Your life. This mountain behind us, though it will take longer than either of us can possibly imagine. The Buddha called this anicca, impermanence, the universal truth that everything arises and everything passes away. And he did not describe it as a tragedy. He did not call it a punishment or a design flaw. He called it simply the nature of all things, the way it is, the way it has always been. Kodo set his empty cup down gently on the table and turned to look out the window. The mountain was changing color in the late light, shifting from green to deep violet, the way it did every evening, the way it had done for 10,000 evenings before either of them were born. Your son is not rejecting you, Ren. He is not telling you that what you built does not matter. He is becoming himself. He is following his own river, the way you followed yours, the way your father followed his. And this tea house, listen to me now. This tea house does not disappear simply because its doors close someday. Every cup of tea you have ever poured lives on in the person who drank it. Every conversation that has happened at these tables lives on in the people who spoke the words. Every afternoon of golden light through that window has been absorbed by someone who sat here, and it has become part of their understanding of what beauty is, of what care looks like, of what it means to be welcomed somewhere. He looked back at Ren, and his old eyes were bright and steady. The love you have put into this place has already gone out into the world in ways you will never be able to trace. It does not need this building to survive. It already lives in 1,000 places you have never seen and will never see. That is the nature of generosity, Ren. It does not stay where you put it. It flows outward like light from a candle, like water from a spring, and it touches things far beyond what you imagined when you first offered it. Ren sat with this for a long time. He looked at the light on the table. He looked at the old monk's weathered hands resting beside the empty cup. He looked at the room around him. This room he had loved for so many years, with its creaking floor and its chipped cups and its familiar smell of tea leaves and aged wood. And he felt something shift inside him. Not a dramatic transformation, not a blinding insight, just a small, quiet loosening, like a knot that had been pulled tight for many years, finally, gently, beginning to give. "More tea?" Ren asked softly. "Always," Kodo said, and his smile was like sunlight on old stone. "Always more tea." Impermanence is perhaps the most tender of all the Buddha's teachings. It is not meant to frighten you or fill you with dread. It is not a warning. It is an invitation. An invitation to love the world as it actually is, not as you wish it would be, not as a permanent thing you can grip and hold in place, but as a flowing, changing, endlessly beautiful river of moments, each one arising, shining briefly, and then giving way to the next. When you truly understand, not just in your mind but in your bones, that everything is passing, the beautiful and the painful alike, something remarkable happens. You stop gripping so tightly. You stop trying to freeze the good moments in place and push the difficult ones away. You stop demanding that things last forever. And in that release, in that slow opening of the clenched fist, you discover something you did not expect. You love things more, not less, more. The cup of tea becomes more precious because it will be empty soon. The afternoon light becomes more beautiful because it is already leaving. The people you love become more dear because you know, in the deepest, quietest part of yourself, that this is temporary. All of it. Every breath, every heartbeat, every evening you lie down to rest. And it is that very impermanence that makes it sacred. That is what makes it holy. So as you lie here, sinking a little deeper into the warmth beneath you, you might let today be what it was. Simply a day. One single day out of the many thousands you have been given. It had its moments of difficulty and its quiet moments of grace, its stumbles and its small kindnesses. And now it is ending. The way all days end. Not because something went wrong, but because that is what days do. They rise and they set, like the sun, like the moon, like the breath in your lungs. And perhaps there is a sweetness in that. Perhaps you can feel, even faintly, the tenderness of this one unrepeatable day slipping gently into the past. You do not need to hold on to it. You do not need to grade it, or fix it, or wish it had been something other than what it was. You can simply let it go, the way Kodo set down his empty cup, gently, with both hands, with quiet gratitude for everything it held. Let us pause here for a moment. Notice how you are feeling. Let the breath come and go in its own time. And when you are ready, we will continue together. And now, we begin to let the stories fade, like candles being softly blown out, one by one, in a long hallway. You do not need to remember them. You do not need to hold on to any of the words, or any of the names, or any of the places. They have done their work already, like rain soaking quietly into dry earth. And now the earth can simply rest. Let your attention settle into your body, not your thoughts, not your plans, your body. Feel the places where you are heavy, your legs sinking deeper into the mattress, your hips solid and grounded, the weight of your arms resting wherever they have come to rest, by your sides or across your chest or folded gently on the blanket. You do not need to move them. You do not need to adjust anything at all. Simply feel the heaviness. It is a good heaviness. It is the heaviness of a body that has carried you faithfully through an entire day and is now, at last, allowed to be completely still. Notice the temperature of the air on your skin. Just notice it. The slight coolness where your face is exposed to the room. The warmth where the blankets are gathered close around your shoulders. The particular softness where the pillow cradles the back of your head. These are small things, simple things, and they are all that is here. Your breath is slowing now. You may have noticed this already, or you may be noticing it only now. You do not need to change it. You do not need to deepen it or slow it any further. It is finding its own rhythm, the way a river slows as it enters a wide, quiet valley, the way the wind softens and stills just before nightfall. Simply let it be what it is. In and out. In and out. In and out. There is nothing to count, nothing to measure, nothing to achieve. Just the rise and the fall, and the quiet, open space between them. If thoughts come, let them come. They are like clouds drifting slowly across a wide night sky. The sky does not mind the clouds. It does not push them away or try to understand where they came from or where they are going. The sky simply remains. Vast, open, untroubled. You are the sky. The thoughts are only weather, and weather always, always passes. Feel your jaw soften. You may not have realized you were holding tension there. Let it dissolve. Feel the small muscles around your eyes relax and release. Let your forehead become smooth and open. Let your tongue come to rest at the bottom of your mouth, soft and still, touching nothing. These are small releases, but each one is a quiet act of kindness toward yourself. Each one is a permission. Permission to stop holding. Permission to stop bracing. Permission to simply be here, in this body, in this bed, in this one hushed moment, with nothing required of you. The stories we shared are becoming distant now, like the glow of a village seen from very far away, from the top of a mountain, on a clear and windless night. You can see the lights, faint and warm, but you do not need to walk back toward them. You do not need to go anywhere. They are simply there, far away, warm, safe. You are sinking now, not falling, sinking, gently, slowly, the way a leaf sinks through still water in autumn. turning once, turning twice, drifting down through layers of blue and green and soft gray, past the sunlight, past the shadows, deeper and deeper, into the still, dark place at the very bottom of the lake where nothing stirs, where nothing needs to stir. There is no current here, no wind, no sound but the sound of your own breathing, which has become so soft now that it is almost indistinguishable from silence. Just the deepest kind of quiet, a quiet you can rest inside of, a quiet you can trust completely. Your hands are open, not because you chose to open them, but because they have forgotten how to grip. They are simply resting. Palm up, palm down. It does not matter. They are soft. And in that softness, in that openness, there is a kind of peace that does not need a name or an explanation. The moon is somewhere above you. You cannot see it, but its light is there, moving gently through the clouds, soft and silver and endlessly patient. The moon does not hurry. It does not worry about whether it is bright enough or full enough or in the right place in the sky. It simply shines. Because that is what it does. Because that is what it has always done. And its light reaches you. It always reaches you. Even here. Even now. Even on the nights when you have felt most alone, most lost, most certain that the darkness would never lift. The light was there. The light is here. You are safe. You have always been safe. Beneath the worry. Beneath the noise. Beneath the endless planning and the self-doubt and the voice that tells you to do more and try harder and be better. There is a place in you that has never been touched by any of that. A place that is still, that is whole, that is quiet in a way that nothing can disturb. You are resting in that place now. You have come home to it, and it welcomes you the way it always does, without conditions, without questions, without asking you to be anything other than exactly what you are. Simply breathe. Simply rest. The day is done. Let it go. The breath breathes itself. The body holds itself. You are held. You are here. Simply breathe. Simply be. Sleep well. And thank you for joining us here at Buddhist Sleep Stories.